On this episode, we're going to be talking about being an empowered female entrepreneur and how to really access our feminine power to create success.
Welcome to Thriving Launch with Louise Congdon and Kamala Chambers, the show for heart-centered entrepreneurs who want it all.
5 days a week, we bring you different segments to inspire you to live a life of freedom. We interview the leading experts in the field of business, health, and love. Be sure to check out Training Tuesdays, where we give you a clear action plan to grow your own business.
Do you have a product or service that you would like to sell online? Or maybe you've been thinking about it, but you're reserved to do it because you need a website, you need complicated systems, and you need to spend money? Well, I've created a completely free course that teaches you how to use Facebook in a purely organic way. This means no ads and no money are needed. You can use Facebook completely free. So head on over to thrivinglaunch.com. Opt into my Profit from Social Media course. I'm going to teach you the free methods to using Facebook to make money today.
Today's guest is Gina DeVee. She is the founder of Divine Living, a multi-million-dollar company, and she's worked from the White House to the Supreme Court and has even been a mentee of Marianne Williamson, one of our favorite guests we've ever had on the show. This girl has done it all, and she is here to talk with us about female empowerment.
All right, Thriving Launchers, we are here with Gina. So excited to have her on the show today. Hey, Gina, are you ready to launch?
I am thrilled to be here.
So great. You know, you've had a lot of success as a female entrepreneur, and you have a lot of success just being really educated as well. And you've served a variety of people, ranging from working with government officials to working as a chef and a variety of other things that you've done. It's so amazing to have you here. And one of the things that sticks out to me immediately is, how did you find all this strength? And this is going to sound wrong at first, so let me just say it and then try to.
I like it better already.
Well, how do you find all this strength as a woman? Because we live, even in today's age where women are highly empowered and encouraged to go out there and do things, we still live in kind of this culture that doesn't do their due diligence to empowering women, and there's so much work still to be done. How did you find all that strength to push through? Because I know that me as a male, I have a certain advantage that maybe you don't.
Well, I don't think that women need to push through. And I think that when women try to be like men, that's where they miss the boat. I think most of us are very grateful for the women and the generations that have gone before us, whether it's been fighting for the right to vote or equal pay in the workplace, or being able to run for office and run countries, let alone run businesses and boardrooms. And I believe that we've come to a time and place where the ancient wisdom and the wisdom from the past and the wisdom from the way women are naturally wired is really coming full circle. And that is getting that femininity is powerful. And when women learn to use, I believe both the masculine within and the feminine within, but predominantly the feminine, then that's when we're able to work in a way, work miracles, work quantum leaps, and even work step by step in ways that feel really good to us, that don't burn us out. And so for all the reverence that I have for men and massive action, I haven't gotten to where I am today trying to be like a man or blowing out my adrenals and going into massive action. I'm very much about inspired action. And when I first started my career, I was totally broke. I was a broke, struggling psychotherapist that wanted to have this big life and help a lot of people. But I was very interested in being feminine. And the only women that I knew that were really feminine were also equally broke. And the women that I knew that were wealthy and that had financially thriving careers were very much in their masculine. They were investment bankers, they were stockbrokers, they were, pounding the pavement, they were being just like the guys. And neither seemed appealing, being feminine and broke or masculine and wealthy. So it really became a very Gandhi be the change moment. And I know that so much of this is much more mainstream right now. When I started this, it was, back in the 90s. So, and not that I'm 108 years old, but, it really wasn't.
The 90s was like yesterday for some of us, but for other people, it was a long time ago.
Right. And well, at that time, I just didn't see women who were wealthy and feminine. So I decided to start a business, and I decided that I was going to start it creating wealth based on feminine principles. And I didn't really know how to do it at the time. I just made a really big declaration that I was going to learn how and figure it out. So that's where it started.
For me, when you're talking about feminine principles, that could be something that a lot of people don't even know what that means. Some of the things that, for me, that means slowing down, moving from a place of intuition, being open to receptiveness, instead of like pushing through and trying to get something, to make something happen, or being in a place of force. It's a huge topic, so I'd love to hear just a little bit more from you about what that means, being in your place of feminine.
Sure. Just for context, so the Western world really does revere the masculine and masculinity. So that would be like the logical, linear approaches to life or business or making money or saving money. It's the tangible, the concrete, the direct. It's that notion of I'll believe it when I see it. It's that pushing through, that being the warrior, being the king, being the soldier. And so the feminine, conversely, is, as you were saying, very much about the circular. It's not linear. It's the creative, it's the spiritual, the intuitive realms. It's seeing things not as they are, but as they could be. So it's being able to, see someone's potential or see a project's potential. It's also very much about desire versus necessarily logic. And so that is by far the foundation of what I've built my company on today, is really making sure that I am crystal clear on my desires, and everything starts from a place of desire. I don't start from a place of practicality or quote unquote what's practical. And when I have, by the way, it hasn't worked out so well. There's been things that I've done as an entrepreneur. Well, I should do this, and this is what I've taught, or success leaves footprints, and they do, or it does. But really getting to a place of what's true for me, what's my desire. And I have found that functioning from that place, even if it's counterintuitive, even if it's non-linear, even if it's illogical at the time, some of the biggest financial wins and some of the biggest creative breakthroughs have come from that place. So, the statistics say that only 1 in 100 people even know what they want. So if you're clear on your desires, you got a great running start.
Oh, I absolutely believe knowing what your desires are the biggest part of getting it. And I think it's funny because a lot of what you described as the feminine power that we can tap into pretty much describes how Luis co-runs our business. And you bring that femininity, I guess. You're a pretty masculine dude, but you bring, we can all embody those different characteristics, and you bring a lot of that intuitive flow and acting purely from desire through making choices that are based off of that deep knowing that this is right.
Mm-hmm. As you can see, yes, we all, male and female, have the masculine and the feminine within us. And sometimes even very masculine men have mastered femininity better than women. Just for a context and just for an example, regardless of what your political views are, I used to work in the White House, and I worked in the Clinton administration in particular. And I personally have a great respect for Mrs. Clinton. And, you saw during the election, let's just even say with Obama, how Obama demonstrated feminine principles to me. The way he approached the campaign was much more feminine than the way she approached the campaign. She approached it in a much more masculine way. So you can definitely play with these energies back and forth. In terms of women's empowerment, and particularly for women entrepreneurs in business, in case you're like, oh, please don't tell me that I just need to sit there and meditate and law of attract everything in. And though I do personally believe in meditation, law of attraction, never got me consistent cash, which I think is what most women entrepreneurs are really craving, so that they can be supported to do whatever the work is they're meant to do in the world. And I use the archetype of queen, which to me is very much a masterful blend of the feminine and the masculine. And for women, it's learning to trust their instincts and trust their desires and trust their intuition and their creativity to lead with the feminine, but then as necessary, back it up with the logical, the linear, the practical, the action-taking masculine pieces.
So here's an interesting question for me. What are some of the most common stories that you hear from women in regards to why they're not starting their own business or having success in their business, or maybe they work for someone else and they're not having success, or they're not being acknowledged, or they're just not reaching that new level of doing what they really want to be doing, really kind of in the business areas where I want to focus. What do you think are some of the biggest stories that women have around that?
For sure, by far. I'm sure they overlap, but number one is visibility or invisibility. Women, and I can speak for myself, this is where I started. I had this, every woman has dreams inside of her. She did at one point. And maybe she was even a little girl of what she was going to do when she grew up and who she was going to be, or just even what's her heart, like the difference she wants to make in the world, the impact she desires to have. And to the degree that women are codependent or invisible and not seeing themselves, what I've found was I was expecting the world to do for me what I wasn't willing to do for myself, which was see myself. I wanted everyone else to see me. I wanted everyone else to think that I was great or deserved the microphone or to be on the world stage or to write the book and get the book deal or all of that stuff. And it wasn't until I made a commitment to be there for me, to see me, to do for me what I was hoping others would do for me, that then all matters of the universe did line up, and that support and that recognition, that visibility came in. So I would say the pure terror that goes on of why women aren't visible is a fear of judgment and criticism predominantly. What will people think, and what will my circle say, or what will my family say, and what people will say, like, who do I think I am to be great or successful or a leader or a teacher or a successful business owner?
I just really relate to that. Invisibility is like a big piece that I've worked a lot with, and I see my clients struggling with a lot too, my female clients.
And it's something that with running a business with a male, with me, is something that comes up for you. And it's something that you've had to work on quite a bit, because people tend to get on interviews for the podcast, for example, and they acknowledge my presence a lot more, or say my name more often, or kind of relate with me more, or people email me or write me more often. But that was a perception, because I actually didn't see that until you pointed it out and thought, okay, I see that. And I also see that a lot of people really do notice you and acknowledge you. But I just wanted to say that in running a business with a male, it's something that really came up strongly for you.
Yeah, that's definitely been one of the biggest hurdles for me, is kind of getting lost in the shadow, and then you're getting a lot of the acknowledgement, and I'm doing most of the work sometimes. And so I appreciate your perspective on it. And, for me, some of it's an internal shift too, and just knowing my own value and worth without being so attached to the recognition, right? But I'd like to talk about practice. I think that anything, we can really train ourselves to be in any state of being that we want with practice, with rewiring our neural pathways and such. And one of the things that I love is being in the practice of what it's like to access the deep feminine. For me, a lot of that is about quiet, alone time, listening to my body, like feeling the pleasure that my body can access, and delighting in the senses and things like that. And that may not have anything to do with business for some people, but the more I can access that, the more I practice it and can bring it into my business. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about practices that you like and that you would suggest.
Sure. Well, every morning I have a non-negotiable of journaling. So that's where I have me time. That's where I'm able to connect with God, get really clear on my desires, organize my thoughts, and be really grounded as a feminine woman. And then, depending on the mood, I, will either spend time with my husband or work out or get ready for the day. It just kind of depends on what's going on. So I think that's a bit of reading is another one of part of my morning ritual that makes a regular rotation. But I would say my biggest practice is a place of yes. And when I say that, I mean letting my yes be yes and my no be no.
And what about your maybes?
I'm Sicilian, so we don't have too many of those.
Oh, that's great.
I'm a passionate Italian woman, and it's pretty much, it's an absolutely yes, or it's a, what are you thinking? No. But the maybe is a great question. If I'm in a maybe, it usually means a no, or it needs a tweak or something. But just the way I'm wired, my husband is very different from me. I have this like natural gut instinct. So like, I know pretty much immediately, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And I had to learn to trust that because so much of me was like, trained, well, Jeannie, you need to learn to compromise. You need to learn to consider other people's points of view, or I doubt myself. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I should rethink this. And over time, I learned that that's what really got me in trouble, because trusting that gut instinct was really important. My husband is Mr. I need to wait to get clear on things, and sometimes he's clear, relatively speaking, in the moment. And sometimes it takes days or weeks for him to get clear. And I used to be irritated by it, like the pace was killing me. And because we work really well together, I've learned what an incredible intuition he has. And now you'll literally see me like going to him and be like, so do you have clarity on this? And he'll be like, no. And I'll be like, okay, well, we're going to wait until you get clarity. So we've learned to really be in unison and respect each other's processes. But back to that yes or no, I know for me pretty quickly. I also have developed a practice of quick decision making. It just works for me. I'm going to make a decision pretty much immediately, one way or another, and it's going to be done, and I'm going to move on. And that's just something that works for me so that my brain doesn't get cluttered and my being doesn't get cluttered, and I can have a clear space to work on whatever I'm working on.
Before we close, what is the last gem that you really want to leave people with? That one thing that you want to make sure the thriving launchers walk away with?
Women, give yourself permission. I think that one of the things that keeps women from being visible and being successful and making money, and we can learn a lot from men in this. If you ever walk into a room with a bunch of dudes and you think they're walking around and be like, well, do you mind if I go first? Or like, should I raise my hand? And all this like self-doubt and need for self-permission. Guys intrinsically do not have that. I'm in a mastermind.
No, we do not.
Bunch of dudes, and it's like, even when they're like women feel like they've got to have the smartest question in the room to even have the value to raise their hand. And then I'll see these dudes asking dumbass questions with all the confidence in the world. And you're like, really? Wow. So I say that with love and respect in the sense that should I buy this? Should I do that? Should I launch this? Should I start that? Should I go on that trip? It's like all this stuff. What do you desire to do? What do you want? So I would say, give yourself permission and don't be so fearful of making a mistake. I find that like life and entrepreneurialism, it's kind of like poaching an egg. You got to do a lot of them till you get the perfect poach. And as a scrambled egg in water, it's okay. Like I think women are just overly careful with so many of the daily decisions that it's keeping them paralyzed. So give yourself permission to be you, go do you, give yourself permission to even make mistakes, because in that you will find your greatest successes.
So beautiful. We've been here with Gina DeVee on the Thriving Launch podcast talking about female power and accessing that in our business and our success in our lives. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone, and keep thriving. You've been listening to the Thriving Launch podcast. For books and resources related to today's episode, make sure to head over to thrivinglaunch.com. We'll see you there. Hey, check out the next episode where we're going to talk with our friend Jody Ardito about how to take big dreams and big ideas and turn them into reality. And if you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and leave us a rating on iTunes. It helps.